Welcome to I Just Don't Know, a podcast where we learn something new, challenge opinions, and hope to make the misinformed informed. I can openly say I've spoken when I did not need to, been unnecessarily controversial, and shared my misinformed opinion thinking it was not. In this podcast, I will try to right some wrongs and take on a new topic each episode that I think I knew, but in fact, I just don't know. This episode is all about fulfilling your destiny, achieving your greatest goals in life, and aspiring for what you truly want. I am, of course, talking about dreams. I wanted to talk about this topic in this episode because I ended up watching a really interesting TED Talk and doing a bit of reading around the very famous author and self-help sort of advocate from the US called Sher. And I don't think many people have heard of her in the UK, but in the US, she's a bit of a cult hero, and I noticed that actually she was born in 1935, and last year she unfortunately passed away at the age of 86. But her story mostly begins when she's around 36 years old in New York in the 1960s, and she's divorced, she's broke, she's got 2 kids to look after, she doesn't really know what to do. And so it all starts from there, and in this period of her life, she managed to find a group of people that really brought to the forefront of how do you actually fulfill your dreams. And the reason why this resonated with me a lot is that the title of this talk and the message that she sends out fundamentally is: isolation is a dream killer, not your attitude. Which is interesting because a lot of self-help sort of top 10 tips is all about how do you get a good, strong mental attitude, and it's all about controlling your attitude and being really strong and knowing exactly what to do where in the right time and being disciplined. And I get that. I think that is relevant. But her perspective is really interesting, and she is famous throughout the 60s and 70s as she built this career that I'll go into in a bit more detail in a moment. Is that she didn't like these sort of cliche self-help tropes and all those sort of classic phrases that everyone live life to the fullest and all these things that came out throughout the 70s and 80s. But I really find interesting is how she breaks it down very simply. So it all starts with a story that she talks about in this TED Talk, and please do go watch it on YouTube and things like that. But in summary, she talks about this group that she discovers when she is in New York, and she's sort of not in a good place. And she talks about this guy called Ronnie, who is a bit of a melt, bit of useless, all over the place. He's in this group, and he only comes to this sort of self-help AA group that they're part of there for his social side of things in life. And fundamentally, he's a bit of a loser, and things are pretty bad. And women hate him, and he's got no friends, and he doesn't know what to do. And he's not the nicest of people. But after a while in this group, he started to be more comfortable, and he explained to Barbara in this discussion group that he was feeling a bit depressed, and he wanted her to help him get a new flat, because a flat or apartment in New York, there was a lot of them, and it was actually quite easy to get a good flat. You just needed to be presentable to the landlord and get a nicer one. So she worked with the group, and one of them knew someone who had a nice flat to rent out, and he was moved into that nice flat. Okay, so that's a simple story. But then Ronnie goes to Barbara, according to what she said, is that Ronnie said, well, I want a woman now. And considering he was a complete loser and all over the place, and he had a no chance in hell, as she says, in getting a woman, they said, Why can't you get a woman? And well, it's because of all those reasons. As you know, every woman hates me. But she goes to the group and they talk together, and collectively they work together, and they find someone who goes on a date with Ronnie, and he ends up going on to sort of get in a relationship with that woman. So that's the achievement of that group. But where the key part of this story is, and I find really interesting and sets the sort of the basis of everything here, is Barbara thinks and talks to the group, said, look, we've managed to get Ronnie a new apartment, a brand new woman. We can, as a collective, we can do anything. We can make you do whatever you want to do. And apparently in that group, and this is a true story, that they helped someone get through law school. They helped someone and go travel around Africa. And they helped someone get to Paris. They helped someone sort of set up their own dance studio, something like that. But overall, this set up a business for her of creating these success teams around America. And this is you could argue this is very American. But overall, she created this business of where these people would gather, and they would be called, and they'd be led by the success team managers. And effectively, it's all about what you can do as a collective to help each other out. Now, it got me thinking when I was sort of watching this and reading about this, is that it fundamentally, the job I do is all about networking and finding the right person for the right job in the timely manner, and who can talk about the difficult situation that perhaps a company is in financially or something like that. It's all about who you know, and a lot of people don't realize how much of a resource the people they know can be, and we don't tap into it enough. And I was thinking that maybe the change of things like social media and everyone only painting the best picture of their lives, and when we meet, it's always, it's different, and people are all separated sometimes, and we only meet each week, and everyone has to sort of be talked to each other via WhatsApp and texting. Therefore, we never really spend enough time together, or have to rely on each other to find something out. You can just go on your phone and find it out yourself, and everyone is very independent. But in reality, the phone and internet can only do so much. They definitely cannot help someone achieve exactly what they want, or in this case, they achieve their dream. So how Barbara breaks it down is, you first off need to have a wish, and you need to outline very clearly what you want. And that is easier said than done. And I think Barbara brings out a book in 1994 calling it "I Could Do Anything If Only You Knew What It Was." So that's a very good point. You need to know what you want before you can have a wish or a dream. So that's a slightly different issue. But the second thing you must always outline, she says, is you need to have an obstacle. You need to say why you haven't got that wish. You can't just say, I wish I was an astronaut, or I wish I was a millionaire, or I wish I had a Ferrari as a car, or I wish I had my perfect job. You need to say, well, I wish I had the best car out there or the best job, but I haven't, because I haven't got enough experience yet, and I need to become more, I need to build up my skills, and I need to get a qualification. You need to put a why. You need to outline the obstacles. So I think it's a really interesting way of putting it, because it's very easy to be very wishy and think about what we want, and think about just a wish list. Even for Christmas now, as we're approaching it, we're creating a wish list. But you can put it on that wish list. Why can't I achieve that myself? Why can't I have that now? And you look at it and go, well, maybe it's too expensive. And just putting a wish list on about things that you really want, but do you really want them if you can't even think of a reason why you can't have them? It's sort of maybe it's an external influence. It's an interesting one. But going back to Barbara, how she sort of developed this concept, which is really interesting, and it resonated with me a little bit, and about when she was in sort of the 50s, and she was sort of young and in sort of trying to make her way. I think just before she had this story with Ronnie in New York, she sort of accepted, okay, in the 50s you had your dreams, but unfortunately as a woman especially, the world was rebuilding, and if you had dreams generally and you said you can try and influence others and create your own reality and travel around the world, she jokes that a doctor would be called, because in that generation you just got on with what you were supposed to do, because the world was still recovering from the war, I'd imagine, and the economy was not in the best place, and Europe especially wasn't. So what she thinks about is, okay, well, I'll just be average. And this is an interesting one, because a lot of people, they either get told that they're not good enough, or they get told that they're great, but they're not they're sort of average in what they achieve, or they realize there's always someone better than them, and that is fine, and it's a good way of looking at it. But I think accepting your average is such a difficult phrase to deal with, because no one really wants to be average, but at least you're not lower than average, I suppose. But overall, I think what you want is subjective, and that and this is where I thought I knew about accepting to be average, and this is where Barbara sort of corrected one of my assumptions, and this is my first assumption of this episode, is that accepting to be average is generally fine, because as long as you're above what others are doing, and you'll be okay, and most people are average. That's what I assumed, and everything is all relative. But what Barbara's made me think is that you don't have to accept to be average, because your dreams or what you want is very subjective and it's unique to you. So in reality, you don't have to accept to be average, because you can achieve your dreams, you can achieve what you want. It might look strange to others what that is, but to you, you've achieved what you want, as long as you follow this setup of outlining what you wish for and explaining the obstacle why you can't have it. But going into sort of how she actually sort of achieves this, and some of the great examples that she uses, is that these success teams around the US that she sets up it's the classic story of if you don't ask, you don't get, really. So she used some examples of where people have said, I really, really want to go on a cruise, but I can't afford it. And what's the obstacle? She says, well, I've got a child that I need to care for, so I can't go away even if I did have the money. Okay, so that's another obstacle. But there's a difficulty as well, is that I can't leave my sort of child alone because they're being stalked by their ex-husband. So there's 3 obstacles there. So haven't got the money, caring for a sort of daughter, and the daughter's got a crazy ex-husband stalking her. But in this group, the first one, someone came in who had just run a marathon or some sort of charity event, and they had won a single ticket to the cruise, but this person couldn't go, so they donated the cruise ticket. But how do we deal with the daughter? Well, someone put their hand up and said, well, I'm a nurse and I have to do 10 days pro bono care, so for free, but I haven't sorted it out yet, and I haven't got much of the year left, so I can help care for your daughter. But then everyone went quiet for the third one, because how are they going to deal with a stalker? And the Barbara's really good in this, and please do watch it, because I'm sort of butchering this anyway. She just says that she really will never forget this voice, but it was a low, deep voice from the back of the room that just went, I'm a cop, what's his name? And fundamentally, that was dealt with, and the person went on their cruise. I think there was another really good example of someone said, well, Barbara says they calls them their impossible dreams. Tell me an impossible dream. She went to a group in somewhere in sort of the deep south or something like that in the US, and they said, well, I wanted to dance with Patrick Swayze from Dirty Dancing. It's impossible. How are we going to do that? How are you going to end up dancing with a celebrity? I think this was in the 90s, so sort of the height of his career. And someone in the crowd said, well, I know someone I work for at a ranch that his mother owns, and he's coming in on Wednesday, and I've danced with him before, so come in and you can dance with him. So I was a bit skeptical about some of these examples, and I'm sure they've happened, and I'm definitely sure they happened, but there's an element of luck. You need to be in a big group where there are 100 different connections and experiences, and people are willing to share. And that got me thinking about, well, how do you recreate that? How do you recreate it in the UK? How do you recreate it with the different sort of attitudes and openness that we have here in the UK, or within your friends? And I think the overall message that it's saying, that's what I'm thinking, is to be kind. And this is my second assumption that I thought I knew, but I actually don't know, is being kind does encourage others to be kind. That's what I thought. And being kind is an act that can be quite exhausting, and there is a unlimited need for kindness in the world, and there's only a limited amount of people giving kindness, or you can only give so much. So I can put my hands up that sometimes I'm not as kind as I could be, but I do try to be very nice and friendly and kind to as many people as I can. But what I assumed, that I didn't realize that being kind can lead to this sort of success in your network, your success in achieving what you want, your dreams. And I think my assumption here is that I don't realize that by being kind, you get something back from that you don't even recognize, and you do have to actually maybe actively tap into that, which is someone else helping you overcome that obstacle that is attached to that wish or that desire that you, or something you want to do. And I think it got me thinking about this, what I'm doing here, trying to set up and run my own podcast, is that I've tried to do it on my own. I've done a lot of research, and I've been experimenting and trying to improve on the quality and the content, and I've just sort of dive right in. And I know it's not great. If I ask for help, if I ask someone, my dream is to, or my wish is to have a successful podcast that people want to listen and they learn something and they're happy. But my obstacle is that I don't know how to do the sound and the production, and I don't know how to be the content or how to get there. One thing I do accept is going to take a while. But what this message from Barbara has made me think is that I've done what I've always done in my life. I've tried to be too independent, and I've not asked for enough help. I did speak to my friend who has a successful sort of small business that she runs, and I'm excited for her to come on in the future one day and try to get her perspective of how she approached that sort of strangeness of doing your own thing, and how do you fit it into your own life and not overthinking it and improving as it goes on. And that was helpful, because it gave me that confidence to just keep going, and it's okay if things aren't very good. It'll change, and what you might want to do at the beginning, 6 weeks later, you completely change your mind. So even on this, I've sort of mixed it up a bit, and I've brought in this concept that of making assumptions, and I think I'm on 2 on this podcast so far. So I've sort of asked for help, and the girlfriend Kirsty's been incredible in sort of the support as well. But I definitely think I could have asked for more help, but maybe I don't know where that is. I suppose I did ask someone at work who's very into sort of the film industry, and he's actually left his job and tried to sort of make it in that again. He was very supportive and was sort of asking what the sort of content is, and that was a while ago. So I suppose I did ask for a little bit of advice, or shared my wish, but maybe I the actual doing of it, I should really have asked someone else or put. I think Kirsty had a great idea of just joining some groups socially and who want to set up a podcast and finding out if there's people out there in the same position but they don't have someone else to set up a podcast with, because I definitely think doing a podcast with more than one person is more sort of enjoyable, and people are so you can bounce off each other, and it'll be funnier and more enjoyable. But I don't know. I want you to why don't you think about, is there anything you've done in that you just could have asked for more and asked someone to help you overcome that obstacle? Because I definitely think that's something that I'm going to be thinking about going forward. I'm definitely going to be thinking about how people, and this is what Barbara says actually, people want to solve other people's problems. People are problem solvers. So the wish is the want, the obstacle is the why not, but the people around you are the solution. And I just really interesting to think about how someone can help someone so easily. And I think I do it a lot in work. I help other people that they have not a clue what they're doing, but just by a few simple things, simple steps that I've done 100 times, they can resolve the situation. So it's really, really interesting that how does someone else help you? And I think maybe I'm going to try this more often of what I want. But I think it does stem down to you first need to outline what your wish is and why can't you achieve it, and that's how you outline your dreams. And maybe for the next few weeks, when I do speak to people, I'll be going, come on, what's your dream? What do you want to do? And maybe think about and then just ask, why can't you do that? Tell me why. Outline the obstacle, and I might not know someone. I might not be able to help them, but I might know someone who could. And I think I'm going to be a bit more proactive in sharing those details, or sharing the people that I know, or trying to remember the information about people that could help someone else, and trying to use this formula to help people achieve their dreams. Because I definitely think it is potentially doable, but it also boils down to being kind. But I love the message that she leaves. What I said earlier about sort of what is the focus of the TED Talk that she does is that isolation is a dream killer, not your attitude. So it's all about collaborating and work together. And I'll be honest, I do like collaborating with other people. I think when more than one person's involved, everything is more rounded, holistic, and it's got different influences, and it's more sort of approachable and sort of palatable for other people because it's got different opinions. And I know the argument is especially when it comes to sort of arts, if it's got too many people getting involved, then it sort of loses its sort of true meaning and its purity. And so I get that, but I think when you bring groups of people together, it's amazing what they can achieve. But what I'm trying to figure out, and my assumptions that I sometimes make in some ththings I do, is that I can do this on my own, and I've done it all my life, and it's a habit that I just fall into because I think people do like their routines, and they do like the sort of trusting themselves, falling into trying to be too independent and doing it and trying to do everything themselves. And if you ask for a bit of help, actually, it might come out better. And I think I've tried to do that more at work, but this is a perfect case here that maybe this needs to be, I need to be more sort of open to asking for help. So yeah, a really interesting one there about sort of achieving your dreams. But I wanted to finish on what I really liked about what she says. So when you help someone's dreams come true, it echoes in practical ways that are truly wonderful. And she said, that's me sort of paraphrasing a quote that she says, she says, it echoes in practical, wonderful ways. And that's a really nice way of thinking about it. Like if you help someone else achieve their dreams, they might help someone else achieve their dreams. And I think going back to the example of the person who was going on the cruise, when that person goes on their cruise, the nurse helps the daughter, who then she says how could become a teacher, who then teaches someone about the fear of managing fear when someone is stalking you, and how asking the police who dealt with the situation and managed to perhaps protect her, and then she teaches other people to trust in the society that they will deal with the issue of a stalker or something like that, and therefore the issue gets avoided, and she goes on to become, I don't know, some sort of a teacher that can help improve a school, and then it's a sort of ripple effect, or butterfly effect, or whatever you want to say. You manage to do that and help that person achieve their dreams, and they have subsequently helped other people achieve their dreams. And obviously in an ideal world, or from a selfish perspective, you help someone achieve their dreams and then they help you achieve their dreams. And I suppose that's what a relationship, I suppose, is. And when people are sort of aspiring to have another person or a partner in life, that's what you go for, and you help that other person. It's not something that is instantaneous, it's constant. So, really interesting, how to achieve your dreams. This is just one sort of view on it, but boiling it down, and I've used that again, and not assuming, boiling it down to the two things: the wish and the obstacle. So you need to know what you want, and you need to know why you can't have it. But to go back to my assumptions is that, first of all, I mustn't assume that being sort of average is just about accepting it and then getting on with life. Actually, achieving your dreams is very subjective, and you can achieve your dreams, and it might look average to other people, but that doesn't matter. You've achieved your dreams, and just go for it. Don't accept to be average. Don't accept to just follow what you think you've been told what to do. And then the other assumption is being kind is not just an act of kindness, and being an act of just being a good person. Being kind can actually cause a reciprocal effect where you will get more from people around you, and they will actually help you overcome those obstacles of those dreams that you have. So being kind is a really important factor if you want other people to help you. And collaborating and working together is how you achieve your dreams. And I really like that. And so this is a interesting view on how to achieve your dreams. And I need to perhaps work with other people to help me achieve my dream of having a successful podcast. But it's at very early days, and I will keep going. I've enjoyed this shorter podcast this time round. I think more specific. Please do listen to further podcasts. I'll keep on improving and do my best. Thank you so much for listening. And bye everyone.